chosen one, pause for a moment and simply be here. Let the world fall quiet around you. Feel your breath. Feel your chest rising and falling. Feel the stillness that is settling over you right now. This is not coincidence. This is not random. This moment has been placed in front of you on purpose. Before your eyes opened today, heaven already knew you would arrive here. Before your thoughts formed, there was a stirring in your spirit that you might not have had language for, but you felt it anyway. Something ancient, something familiar, something that did not feel like imagination. It felt like memory. It felt like truth, waking up inside you. You have been sensing a shift, a quiet pull, a whisper behind your thoughts that kept calling you to look deeper, to breathe slower, to listen closer. You may not have understood it, but your spirit did. Your spirit recognized that something in your life has been preparing to change, not slightly, completely. This message is the confirmation you have been waiting for, because the ache you have been carrying has not been empty. The longing you feel is not weakness. The questions that have been rising in you are not confusion. They are the early signs of remembrance. Your soul is remembering who you really are, who you have always been. You are not here to escape life or to survive it. You are here because heaven has chosen this exact moment to reveal something to you that could only be understood after everything you have lived through. Right now, in this very breath, the veil is thinner than it has ever been. Your heart is open. Your spirit is listening. And what comes next will change the direction of your story. You have walked with pain in ways most people will never understand. And not just the kind of pain that comes and goes like weather, but the kind that settles into the bones, into the memory, into the breath. The kind that reshapes the way you see yourself and the world. The kind that made you wonder if something inside you had cracked beyond repair. But listen to this with your whole heart. Your pain did not break you. It broke you open. There is a sacred difference. To be broken down is to collapse into despair. To be broken open is to become deeper, softer, wiser, stronger. The heartbreaks that shattered your trust. The betrayals that cut into the places you were most tender. The losses that left your arms empty and your spirit aching. The loneliness that pressed into you until silence became your familiar companion. None of it happened because you were weak. None of it happened because you were unworthy. None of it happened because God abandoned you. It happened because your soul was being stretched to hold more. More compassion, more awareness, more clarity, more truth. Pain has a way of stripping away what is false. Pain removes the illusions you once held tightly. Pain reveals what has always been underneath. Your strength, your honesty, your depth, your resilience. You didn't realize it then, but every tear was softening the ground of your heart. Every disappointment was loosening the soil around your roots. Every lonely night was preparing space within you for something new to grow. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. Pain was the doorway, not the destination. It opened you to God in a way comfort never could. It made you ask questions that reshaped your identity. It forced you to face yourself, your wounds, your shadows, your truth. And you did not run, even when it felt unbearable. Even when you thought you could not survive another day of it. Somewhere inside, something sacred remained. Something refused to be extinguished. That something was your purpose breathing. Now, because of what you have endured, your capacity to feel is greater. Your capacity to love is greater. Your capacity to see beneath the surface is greater. The world tried to reduce you, but pain expanded you. You are not who you were before the suffering. You have become someone deeper, someone real, someone true. There is a moment in every soul's journey where everything goes dark. Not because you failed, not because you were abandoned, but because you were being placed into the ground. The world teaches you to fear darkness, to believe that whenever the light disappears, something terrible has happened. And when you found yourself surrounded by silence, by endings, by loss, you assumed you were being buried. You assumed your story was over. But hear this truth gently, slowly, and let it settle into you. You were never buried. You were planted. The ground that felt like a grave was actually an environment of transformation. When a seed is planted, everything that it has been up until that point must break. The shell must split. The old structure must fall apart. The identity it once had must dissolve. To an untrained eye, it looks like destruction. To the seed, it feels like death. But to the Creator, it is the beginning of life. This is what was happening to you. Your identity was not being erased, it was expanding. Your purpose was not being lost, it was taking root. Your spirit was not disappearing into darkness, it was anchoring itself deeper than ever before. You could not see what was growing because growth happens beneath the surface first. No one applauds a seed in the soil. No one celebrates the hidden season. No one honors the part of the journey where nothing seems to be happening. But heaven saw roots forming. Heaven saw strength being woven into your core. Heaven saw depth developing where there was once only surface. What looked like delay was foundation. What felt like silence was instruction. What appeared to be the end was the beginning of your becoming. When the seed breaks open, it does not emerge as it once was. It rises, transformed, stronger, healthier, rooted, ready to grow toward the light. And now the soil that once felt heavy is starting to loosen. The darkness that once felt suffocating is beginning to thin. The pressure that once seemed endless has served its purpose. You are not rising as who you used to be. You are emerging as who you were always meant to become. There are seasons in life where it feels as though everything you once depended on begins to fall away. The people you trusted become distant. The stability you relied on begins to crack. The identity you carried no longer fits, and the world around you becomes unfamiliar, almost unrecognizable. You wonder if you've done something wrong. You wonder if God has turned his face away. But listen closely. You did not enter the fire because you were abandoned. You entered the fire because you were chosen. There are things inside of you, gifts, wisdom, clarity, strength that can only be revealed through heat. Heat that burns away what is false. Heat that purifies what is real. Heat that removes everything that was never meant to go with you into the next chapter of your destiny. The fire does not come to destroy you. The fire comes to reveal you. Gold is not formed in comfort. It is formed in intensity. The flame must rise. The pressure must tighten. The temperature must climb. Because the treasure within you was always precious. But it needed to be separated from what was never yours. And yes, the fire hurt. It burned through patterns you clung to for safety. It melted away identities you once believed were you. It exposed wounds that you had hidden even from yourself. You have stood in the kind of pain that cannot be explained to others. You have endured nights where your heart whispered prayers your mouth could not speak. You have cried tears that had no language, only sound, only ache. But what you did not see was what heaven saw. Heaven saw your courage. Heaven saw your endurance. Heaven saw your faith, even when you didn't feel faithful at all. The enemy tried to convince you that the fire meant you were being punished. But God was refining you. You were learning how to see clearly, how to love without losing yourself, how to hold boundaries without closing your heart, how to stand without collapsing into the expectations of others. Your strength is not loud now, it is steady. Your wisdom is not forced, it is natural. Your spirit is not fragile, it is fortified. You walked into the fire trembling. You walk out of it transformed, not wounded, not destroyed, but purified. You emerge with a glow that does not come from the world. It comes from surviving the fire and still choosing love. There came a season in your life where everything grew quiet, not just around you, but inside you. The conversations that once distracted you no longer held your attention. The people who once felt close began to fade into distance. Even your own voice felt softer, slower, as if it were waiting for something. At first, the silence felt heavy, unsettling, lonely. You wondered if you had been forgotten, if life had somehow moved forward without you, if God had stepped back and left you to navigate the wilderness alone. But that silence was never abandonment. It was invitation. Heaven was drawing you away from the noise, so you could finally hear your own soul speak. There were truths inside you that could not be revealed while you were surrounded by distractions. There were wounds you carried that could not be recognized while you were busy trying to be who others expected you to be. There were prayers forming in your spirit that required stillness to rise to the surface. Silence is where God speaks the loudest. In that quiet, your spirit began to remember who you were before the world taught you to forget, before the disappointments hardened you, before the betrayals made you cautious, before the loneliness convinced you to shrink. Something ancient within you began stirring the original you, the unguarded you, the luminous you. In that silence, you learned how to sit with your own heart. You learned how to breathe without rushing. You learned how to listen without needing to respond. You learned that peace is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of alignment. And yes, there were nights when the silence felt like too much, when the space around you echoed every fear you tried to outrun, when you wanted to fill the quiet just so you didn't have to feel what was rising. But you didn't run. You stayed. You waited. You listened. And slowly you realized something. The silence was not empty. It was full. Full of guidance. Full of healing. Full of God. Because in the season where no one else could reach you, heaven could. You were not being isolated. You were being recalibrated, pulled inward so your spirit could find its way home. You are standing in the in-between, the space where the old life has loosened its grip, but the new one hasn't fully taken shape yet. And this place can feel confusing, unstable, unsettling, like your spirit knows something has changed, but your reality hasn't caught up yet. This is the transition space where identity rearranges itself before destiny becomes visible. The routines that once defined you no longer fit. The relationships that once felt familiar now feel distant. The dreams you once clung to no longer feel aligned. It can feel like everything is dissolving at once. And in many ways, it is. But dissolving is not destruction. It is release. You are shedding layers of yourself that were built from survival. Patterns formed in hardship. Behaviors rooted in fear. Attachments created to avoid abandonment. Dreams shaped by what you thought you deserved, rather than what you were made for. Now those layers are falling away not because you failed, but because you outgrew them. This in-between space is not punishment. It is preparation. You are not who you were yesterday, but you are also not yet who you will be tomorrow. Your spirit is catching up to your calling, and even though it feels like nothing is happening, everything is happening. Your intuition is sharpening, your values are shifting, your boundaries are strengthening, your awareness is deepening. You are learning what aligns with your soul and what doesn't, what nourishes you and what drains you, what feels like expansion and what feels like contraction. This is the sacred realignment. The reason it feels uncomfortable is because you are crossing a threshold, stepping out of the self that was shaped by pain and into the self that is shaped by purpose. Do not rush this part. Do not judge this part. Do not try to go back to what once felt familiar. You cannot return to who you were. That version of you has completed its assignment, and now a new one is emerging. If this message is speaking to your spirit, don't let it pass by. Pause and claim your alignment. Write in the comments, I am rising. I am ready, not for me, but as a declaration to heaven, to yourself, and to the path opening before you. There are moments in life when people walk away from you, doors close without warning, and opportunities you prayed for never materialize. And the first instinct is to take it personally, to believe something must be wrong with you, that you were not enough, that you were forgotten or overlooked. But I need you to hear this with your whole spirit. Nothing was taken from you. Everything that left was removed for your protection. The friendships that suddenly faded, the relationships that couldn't hold your heart, the environments that once felt like home but started to feel too small. They didn't end because you failed. They ended because you grew. There are people who could only walk with you up to a certain point, not because they were evil, not because they didn't care, but because their presence would have interfered with your becoming. Some people were attached to the version of you that was still dimming your own light. Some loved you as long as you were easy to carry. Some were only comfortable when you needed them. But when you started healing, when you started awakening, when you began to see your own worth, they didn't know how to hold that version of you. And heaven knew if they stayed, you would shrink yourself again. So doors closed, calls stopped, connection loosened, identity shifted. This was not rejection. This was divine redirection. God heard conversations you didn't hear. He saw intentions you didn't see. He witnessed actions behind your back that your heart was too loyal to imagine. And even when you begged for certain people to stay, he said, "No, they cannot go where I am taking you." You were being pulled out of alignment with what could harm your spirit. Rejection saved you from becoming someone you were never meant to be. And I know it hurt. It hurt deeply, because you loved with sincerity, because you gave with purity, because you saw the best in people even when they could not see it in themselves. But your heart was being protected, your purpose was being guarded, your future was being shielded. What you thought you lost was actually what could not remain in the presence of your rising. Now, with clearer eyes and a wiser spirit, you can look back and see every closed door was God's hand saying, "I have better. Keep moving." There are seasons in life where everything feels slow. Progress is quiet. Healing takes time. Prayer feels unanswered. Breakthrough seems far away. You waited. You endured. You kept walking even when you couldn't see where the path was leading. And because of that, something sacred has been set in motion. You are entering a season of divine acceleration, a time where what once took years will now happen in months. What once seemed impossible will unfold with ease, and what was once blocked will open without effort, not because you forced it, not because you chased it, but because you became aligned enough to receive it. Heaven moves differently than the world. The world rewards performance. Heaven responds to preparation, and you have been prepared. The waiting was never wasted. The healing was never in vain. The tears watered the very ground your blessings are about to rise from. Acceleration is not chaos. It is timing. When a seed finally breaks through the soil, it appears to grow overnight. But in truth, it had been expanding in silence the entire time. Your growth has been happening beneath the surface. Unseen, yet sacred. And now the surface is about to break. You will find yourself in conversations you didn't seek. You will receive invitations you didn't ask for. You will be noticed by people who once overlooked you. You will walk into rooms that were once closed to you, not by striving, but by alignment. Opportunities will feel natural. Connections will feel effortless. Provision will feel guided. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is divine orchestration. But remember, acceleration is not just about receiving. It is about remaining in rhythm with God. The energy of your life is shifting from waiting to walking, from holding back to stepping forward, from surviving to building. Don't second-guess the doors that open. Don't talk yourself out of what you prayed for. Don't minimize your readiness. You are ready. The version of you that doubted is gone. The version of you that questioned your worth is gone. The version of you that apologized for your power is gone. You are stepping into motion now, not rushed, not frantic, but guided, carried, lifted. This is the season where God says, "Move, because I am moving with you." Everything you have endured, survived, risen from, and grown through has shaped you for something far larger than a personal victory. Your life was never meant to be a story just about you. It was always meant to be a bridge, a path, a light. Your healing is not just for your own relief. It is meant to open doors for others. Your breakthrough is not simply a reward. It is a guidepost for those who are still walking through the storms you survived. There are people you have not met yet who will one day look at you and say, "Because you made it, I believe I can too." This is why your process had to be deep. This is why your transformation had to be real. This is why nothing about your journey could be artificial, rushed, or shallow. You are not being positioned to impress. You are being positioned to impact. Your story carries a frequency now, a resonance that reaches hearts, not just minds. People feel your presence differently. They sense the truth in your words because you have lived what you speak. This is why you were set apart. This is why your road was not like others. This is why you could not stay where you once were. Your life is becoming a testimony, not of perfection, but of survival, resurrection, and renewal. You will walk into rooms, and the atmosphere will soften, not because of your confidence, but because of your compassion. You will speak to others, and their walls will lower, not because of your eloquence, but because your voice carries understanding. You will hold space for people, and they will feel safe not because you fix them, but because you know how to sit with pain without running. What you gained in the fire was not just strength, it was empathy. What you gained in the silence was not just clarity, it was discernment. What you gained in the breaking was not just endurance, it was purpose. You were not refined only to rise. You were refined so that when others cannot see a way, you can become the way. This is not weight, this is calling. There is something resting on you now that was not there before. A weight not heavy but holy. A presence not loud but unmistakable. This is the mantle, not a title, not an achievement, not something earned by effort, performance, or striving. It is something bestowed. It came through fire, through silence, through endurance. It came through the moments no one saw, the prayers no one heard, the battles you fought alone. It came because you remained even when it would have been easier to collapse. There is an authority in you now that cannot be imitated or manufactured. It is not fragile. It is not insecure. It does not need to defend itself or prove itself, because it was forged in the unseen. When you walk into a room, atmospheres will shift. Not because of your voice, but because of your alignment, because heaven recognizes you, because your spirit carries clearance in realms the world does not understand. But hear this truth clearly. Authority without intimacy becomes ego. Power without surrender becomes corruption. This mantle is not given for pride. It is given for purpose. Your rise is not about being above others. It is about being able to lift those who are still where you once were. You were entrusted with this mantle because you know what it costs to survive the fire and still choose love. You know how to sit with pain without becoming it. You know how to hold compassion without collapsing into rescue. You know how to walk away without closing your heart. This is leadership that cannot be taught, only lived. You are not meant to convince anyone of your calling. Your life is the evidence. Your presence is the confirmation. Your survival is the witness. But stay close to God now, closer than ever before. Do not let applause replace presence. Do not let opportunity replace discernment. Do not let influence replace intimacy. Return to the quiet. Return to the stillness. Return to the voice that carried you when no one else did. Your mantle is not a crown to wear. It is a light to carry. And when you speak now, your words will not just be heard, they will be felt. When you pray, things will shift, not gradually, but immediately. When you move, heaven will move with you. This is not the beginning of your rise. It is the moment your rise becomes recognizable, not to the world first, but to your spirit. because now you know. You were not just saved, you were sent. There comes a moment in every chosen life when preparation ends and calling begins, not because everything is perfect, not because you feel completely ready, but because heaven says, now. This is that moment. You have walked through the wilderness. You have survived the fire. You have endured the silence. You have outgrown the version of yourself that once needed validation, permission, and reassurance. You are not the person who began this journey. Your heart has been stretched. Your spirit has been refined. Your eyes see differently now. You know what matters and what doesn't. You know what aligns with your spirit and what disrupts your peace. You know the cost of your growth, and you do not fear it anymore. This is why heaven can trust you with more now. You are not stepping into this next chapter as someone seeking approval. You are stepping into it as someone who has been approved by heaven. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need to convince anyone to understand you. You do not need to wait for the world to applaud you before you move. The same God who carried you through the valley is now calling you to step onto higher ground. And listen, stepping forward does not mean performing. It does not mean rushing. It does not mean forcing anything into place. It means standing in your truth, fully and openly. It means speaking when your spirit says speak, resting when your spirit says rest, moving when your spirit says move. It means recognizing that every experience has prepared you for this. The compassion you carry was shaped by your wounds. The discernment you walk with was sharpened by betrayal. The wisdom in your voice was formed in the silence. The strength in your presence was forged in the fire. You are not here to return to who you were. You are here to embody who you have become. And now heaven is not whispering anymore. Heaven is declaring. Rise. Walk with your head lifted. Walk with your shoulders steady. Walk with the quiet confidence of someone who knows. I survived what was meant to destroy me. I healed from what was meant to break me. I reclaimed what was meant to be stolen. And now I step forward, not as the wounded, not as the seeking, but as the sent. This is the moment everything within you begins to align. Not the moment when life becomes completely perfect. Not the moment when every question is answered, but the moment when your spirit stands up. You can feel it, can't you? Something inside you has shifted. The fear that once controlled you no longer holds authority. The doubt that once clouded your vision can no longer mute your knowing. The insecurity that once made you shrink no longer fits the identity you now carry. You have crossed the threshold. You are no longer waiting for permission to become. You are becoming, and the world will feel it. Your voice, once careful, once quiet, now carry resonance. Your presence, once dimmed to make others comfortable, now shines unrestrained. Your energy, once fragmented by survival, is now gathered, focused, whole. This is the activation, the moment where everything you learned in the darkness becomes power in the light, where everything you healed in silence becomes wisdom in conversation, where everything you released makes room for everything you are now prepared to receive. You are not stepping into a new chapter. You are stepping into your true self. And with this rising comes a responsibility to remember where you came from, to remember who carried you, to remember the prayers whispered in the nights no one knew you were breaking, but also to remember your strength. You are not fragile. You are not unfinished. You are not searching for identity anymore. Your identity has arrived. Walk forward with steady steps, not rushed, not anxious, not grasping. Walk as someone who knows that what is meant for you cannot be stolen, delayed, or destroyed. Your blessings have your name on them. Your opportunities have your spirit signature. Your breakthroughs are already in motion. All you are doing now is entering alignment with what has already been written. So lift your head, lift your voice, lift your spirit. Declare to your future, I am ready, I am willing, I am aligned, I am chosen, because the world needs the healed version of you, the awakened version of you, the grounded, expanded, tender, powerful version of you. Your rising is not a moment, it is a movement. And today, the movement begins. Chosen one, stay connected to the light that called you here. If you feel this transformation unfolding in you, like, share, and follow, so this message continues to meet you right on time. Your journey is not ending, it is activating. And you don't have to walk it alone.